Okay, Parting versus Theory. Parting versus Theory is it's gonna have a lot of fiends, and because they have a lot of fiends, right? So what did we see that people did in? We have to back up entirely now. So remember what I was saying about the 5 steps? Step 2 is everyone jumps ship to the new faction, either because it's overpowered or they perceive that people don't know how to deal with it yet, which is functionally the same thing for most people. And then their mirror gets developed. So this might be the nascent mirror developing, or the nascent state of the mirror for Infernals. If you're one of those people who thinks that the beta is going to be the exact same when you see it in a couple of weeks to now, I strongly doubt that that's the case. But if you do think that, and you want to bet that I'm wrong, or if you want to bet that the changes won't actually make an overall difference, you're going to want to study Infernal v Infernal games. Now, Infernal v Infernal is really weird, because whoever splits first loses. Also, you need to know that aggressing is better because you get benefits of their veil as well. And that favors the attacker. Because think about it, if you trade your fiend for their brute's veil, and then their brute walks across the map, well, now their unit doesn't have veil when it's crawling across the map, and yours did. Which means that much like Raid Wars or any of those other games where you have Nexus Wars, waves of moving units, right? Your units not having veil are going to be pushed back slowly as you get into the wave function. Ha, science and math joke. Moving forward.
Supercup
Whoever splits
1,
first loses. This is what we saw in the Mana versus Moon series. If you get your brutes trapped and you have to split, then you have fiends against brutes, and brutes are better than fiends. Also, because the buildings seem to themselves either be biological or not as massable. I mean, even the meat farm generates Fellhogs, which is itself a biological unit. Gaunts are a big part of this metagame. It's my prediction. Whoever splits brutes first loses. Gaunts are a big part of the metagame. Because a large number of small units are involved, you're probably not going to see the Weaver or the Magmadon unless the thing that was said in Reddit about how the Magmadon's third attack is AoE is actually true.
The second round starting in this round-robin group tournament between 4 of the best Stormgate players.
I actually think, by the way, that the metagame will evolve into... instead of Fiend v Fiend and we make Gaunts so that we can generate more Fiends, it'll generate into, well, I can have not as many Fiends, but I can have Imps, and Imps are actually less costly for me to create. I just have to control how I flame them on, and for a while that will be the dominant thing to do.
In the world currently.
I also want to note that Veil, your defensive structure, the thing that was the overcharge that Bobs have, Veil is not the equivalent to that. So actually, attacking is better than you think it is. In fact, for a number of reasons, I think that Infernals are quite good at all-inning each other.
We are going to have the winners of the last couple matches, a couple of Infernal players going at it. We are going to have TheoRy, our American Infernal, in the purple.
Let's go, America.
PartinG, our Korean Infernal.
Now, if any of you take unction to that, if you are like, why would you say, let's go America, just because you're American? I don't know what to tell you. I don't... All right.
In the teal. So
had someone say something like that to me.
Get this match started. I hope that you are excited for some fiends.
Sorry about that. We're going to mute that. Forgot to do that earlier. We are going to see some fiends indeed. I love my joke, which is I love watching TheoRy craft, but parting is such sweet sorrow. I love how TheoRy is like, good luck. Parting says, okay. Let me move this so you can see this, right? Let me move this so you can just see. Good luck, good luck. Okay. I feel like this is something done by one, right? Where he just has Saitama or a mob, just like, okay. Crazy. All right. We're going to see at least one Iron Vault, or at least one Vault to start, and that's because Fast Expanding looks like the most nightmarish anti-timing possible in this matchup. And what I mean by that is, if you expand, you might enter the dark and forbidding world of your Shrine finishing at your natural when you have almost no units, or you have no units, and your opponent's first Brute gets there and starts regenerating its Veil, wailing on your structure. That looks fucking dark and uncomfortable. Unless it's like, unless you have the resources to fast expand Iron Vault, but it looks more like you have the resources to Iron Vault expand Iron Vault, then and then that way you can hold off a double Iron Vault. Like that seems more likely to me. Anyways, both of them going for. I love how this is the canonical placement for the Infernal structure, right? For the Iron Vault. I don't actually think it is. Like, I understand why you do this, and I understand why this placement works against bot. Like when you have, I understand why you have this placement here if you're worried about something like hedgehogs, but I would think if you want fiends, you would just press it right up against here. And also, if this is like Little Wargame, or if it's in fact like StarCraft 2, there's a place probably. You know that there's a thing publicly on Reddit that was shown in a developer interview that shows and tracks the percentage gain that you get from each of the imps or the bobs as they're mining. It would not surprise me if you could squeeze out like a couple more percentage points by deliberately placing it in such a way that these units, instead of coming back like this, come back in a straight line. I mean, we see that in Little Wargame and in StarCraft 2 and in some other games that I could mention, but you're not here for those games, so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wonder how close you can get to the Luminite, actually. We're just going to say top and bot. Yeah. This is a 12-minute game. Which, by the way, I did not watch fully all of these games before we started going into them. I watched them, got an idea on them, and then let it percolate, and then went back and looked at the maps with these thoughts in mind, right? So it's a little bit of both. We do see an Iron Vault. There's going to be the expansion, and then the Therium. It looks like one vault is the thing that is just treated as, yeah, you should do that. I think it's actually mad disrespectful to go fast expand on this map with the state of the natural. Right? If you just look at this like Xenos level chasm that you have to make, like, how are you going to do that? Like, you don't even have the ability to just mass your equivalent of supply depots like you do if you're Vanguard and just like, just mass create them, right? Also, one of the charts said that the diagonal is 97%, like 97 or 94% effective, but directly left, right, up, or down is 100% effective. I do wonder for Vanguard if like here is better, even though it's slightly less gold efficient. Because less gold efficient just means you get the gold a little bit later. And I don't know if you need the percentage of gold that badly. And then also it means that you can get a full wall, which will help against fiends. It looks like you have some full wall against fiends. Trust me, if you know any fiends in real life, you have to full wall against them as well as the imp goes down for both players, and they're going to both expand. Yep. Obviously, the top player is going to win because their imp was there like literally 1/4 of a second before the other. Yep. Remember what I was saying about the wave? About how the closer that you are, the more veil that you have. And so whoever splits first loses. But then aggressive openings are better because you'll recover veil on their side. This brute at the top is going to have to leave. Not by much. Yeah, he has to leave. And the reason he has to leave is that he lost the trade, right? If this was level 1 in League of Legends, he just loses the game immediately, right? Right? Isn't that right, League of Legends players? Right? No, it's not right in the slightest. Yeah, he traded. He had no temporary health. So actually being the first person across the map non-committally aggressive is actually the wrong way to be here. Actually, with this interaction that I just see, like, don't you just go get your own... If moving across... Okay, so if getting your brute in this opening across the map first is a losing proposition, because you'll have less veil than your opponent if they were a little bit later, shouldn't the first thing be that you do to go get your camp? I mean, I guess by seeing this, you know that they have at least one vault. The fact that you're leaving, though, might indicate, like... I don't know, man, because you don't know if they have one vault or two, right? So you actually moving across the map didn't really get you that information. How does your damage feel today, good sir? Doth it feel chunky? It offendeth mine senses. Oh no, it's free damage. Oh god, and it's fail boosted bonus damage. Oh no, bot player, no! Oh god, it's bad. It's all bad. Actually, kudos on top player for recognizing that they did lose the trade a little bit, and also that they will literally, if I say that word often enough, it'll sound ridiculous, never catch up. Go get... I guess if you think that, again, whoever splits first loses... So I think you think, hey man, if you did a mirror build, right, which it looks like because our timing was appropriate, I'll just get there to your unit first and just win the straight out 2v2, and then if I win the 2v2, I'm 2v1. Now this I 100% disagree with for bot, because you've already lost, you won the initial trade against top. Top then got like 2 or 3 extra hits on you. You had to retreat, and you've retreated now to a vision camp, and you're starting with a barely there Veil, so like less than 1 hit, less than a quarter of a hit's worth of tanking on the Veil for one of your brutes. And the other one's at half health. The best case scenario here is that you chunk this thing super low, your opponent goes to finish it off, you creepjack them, and then you don't have to Sunder Soul. That seems extremely unlikely. Yeah, I would not. No. Oh God, and this is the most likely scenario actually, right? Yeah. They're just gonna body block because there's no way the other one can show up. And now you're in a great position if you're top because you know you're in a mirror match. Oh, the leech range is actually quite generous. You could probably still win even this. The problem is that if that weak one realizes it's getting struck, you now have 2 brutes against 2 fiends. You get tickled all the way home. So you do actually have to leave, unless you have a 3rd brute! Okay, so that's a losing trade on the bottom side, a winning trade on the top side, and now it's 3 versus... It's now... Oh god, it's really bad. It's a full health, a 3/4 one. It's 2 full healths and a 3/4 one against basically a full health, a 3/4, and a dead one. Yeah, this ain't good. This ain't it. This ain't it. Make no mistake, this game is scuffed. This ain't it. And now you know that you have a mirror build, and you have aggroed to get the vision camp on your opponent's side. Listen, I'm not made of that super stern stuff, so I would just say, looks like I'm ahead, and I would go grab my own vision camp and then like take some of the... I would grab the health regen on their side, run back, grab my own vision camp, and then, you know, just kind of celebrate, because I've just eaten both of their camps. And then, once I've gotten the health regeneration rate... Actually, you could also do this. You know you've won the vision camp and you have the same build. Take your new brutes, go kill the health regeneration camp, get up to full health, then take those units and bring them over here. The purple player, the defending player, the bot side player will have more Veil, but you'll have full health units. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, this imp going for a 3rd is, no. This match, okay, so we see this in, if you're the slow stand and deliver faction, right? If you both interact, like, the equivalent in Little Wargame would be your raiders hit, the second raider comes, no one gets any, like, huge advantages, and then you start making archers and soldiers, these more passive stay on my side of the map units. Then you do just make the equivalent of 1 vault into 3rd in Little Wargame. In this game, because there are more benefits to attacking, right? There's more benefits to having a Shroud Stone. You generate more animus the more that you attack. When you're attacking, you're on your opponent's Veil, which means you're basically taking away their defender's advantage by being there. And their units are out on the map. I would not do this, of taking the 3rd. Normally, you have to kick out the units before you go and take the 3rd, right? So this looks very... particular, especially if the bot topside player just grabs the health regen on the opponent's side and continues pushing. Like, I don't really know what you do. I don't agree with this play, which is just giving up the entirety of the, giving it the control. So I guess, I guess what the top player is worried about is that bot side has just realized how bad their situation is and is getting a second Iron Vault. And the top side player is not willing to commit to getting that. They want to get their Shadow Cleft and get their upgrades so that they can Sunder Soul into, I believe that's 4 Fiends, right? Manually into 4, by default into 2 with the upgrade. And the resource camp here is nice, but it seems overly, like, how to say, it leaves something on the table, right? Because think about this. If you're the top side player, and instead of going up to get that resource camp for 40 Luminite that you have map control, you could go get anytime that you want to, you could just go down to the health regeneration to the right of the bot side player's vision camp, eat the health regeneration, and then this shenaniganry literally cannot happen. This will never, ever, ever happen. Again, the only way that this makes sense is if root production is stopped on the top side. And if that's the case, then it's a little scuffed to send your only 3 brutes like so very far away from the rest of the map. Yes, it's nice that you get a free 80 Luminite, but in exchange for the 80 Luminite, you gave up the health regeneration and the denial of the vision. And you also inadvertently gave up the knowledge of the third base timing, and you could have had all of your units on that side of the map while you then took your own third base. Yeah. Bot side is actually in a good, like, yeah. And now bot side is kind of happy because they shouldn't have been able to get away with murder, but Red Rum was written in lipstick on a mirror, and so they're absolutely going to. I like the placement that we see here of the Shroud Stone. I'm pretty sure Gaunts, if they have the range to be on one corner of that and ignore the other, are very far away from said corner. Again, like the topside player, you could have held on to, you could have grabbed the health regeneration, moved back to the vision tower, used that to like poke and see what's going on the third. I actually think topside player was in a very, very, very good position. And kind of gave it up for some speed camps and some Luminite. Sound. By the way, those speed camps, I think you want to take out the trees. You want to have a better path to the center before you take out those speed camps, because otherwise the effective distance that you have to travel with the speed, it is worth it to get the speed camp because you do travel that distance faster. There's just no getting around that. But you're taking a very long path to justify it, or you're going through the corner and then out to the side. Yep, and we see brutes over there. Yep, fiends over there at the health camp. I just want to note that this thing has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This thing has 30. This thing has like 300 hit points. 300 to 340 or something like that hit points. You could have just eaten that and then had like perfectly full health, excellent, continuously fighting, and probably even able to win losing fights or win against shrouds. Brutes on the bottom side. Yeah, if 4 fiends can wreck this and it gets you 25 therium, it looks like, oh my gosh, come on, top side. I'm harping on that because now the game state looks fairly even, and the only thing that I can say that the top side player gained off of it was a small amount of Luminite therium, not enough to like really push the needle for everything. And maybe tech advantage, maybe, because that's the only reason I can think of for why they would move their brutes away from the top side. And there it is, actually. It's the Magmadon. This is their choice. I think that if you wanted to speed camp, by the way, you would have, like, you can use the Magmadon, tear this area right here, and you'll be fine. But Magmadon is kind of curious. It must be because every third attack is... It must be because every third attack is, or is said to be on Reddit anyways, AoE. And we see that these are Gaunts, and so this is probably why the push didn't stay for the brutes on the bot side. There was a pre-commitment to this idea of Gaunts. I want to float the idea that you probably don't want this many Gaunts. 1 therium cost, 2 one Therium cost, unlike brutes, seemingly, right? We could just see that. We could just surmise that by watching the game and by following some things we've seen on Reddit and some unit stats that we have seen clicked on, right? We can estimate that that is in fact the reality here. And then Gaunts, if they have the infest ability, if they have the hemoglobin infusion, Gaunts, each Gaunt that hits a unit that is not infested becomes infested. So let's think about this. If I have 2 Gaunts and you have 2 enemy units, if I have 2 Gaunts and you have 10 enemy units, those Gaunts are going to be pretty efficient, but I do have to make sure that their attacks change up. That's kind of annoying from a micro perspective. Now let's say you have 10 enemy units, I have 10 Gaunts. I'm not really getting the super benefit of the infest, right? If I hit one of your units, that unit is infested. Did I really need 10 Gaunts to do that? Do the Gaunts actually do that much good damage relative to the brutes? They don't seem faster than fiends, which is a very real concern. Oh, that's a good question also. This is something that only someone who's actually in the beta would know. But if your unit's infested and you Sunder Soul, does your opponent get the Fiend, or do you get the Fiends? Right? Because one is splitting up as a sacrifice and one is splitting up as a cost. But so in Magic terms, those would be different, but both units are dying. Now, by the way, I want to note I said earlier in this replay that top side player could have leveraged their advantage to go kill the health regeneration camp. They could have denied their vision camp on the bot side from getting captured and capped and stopped, and they would have known about this third base earlier. Here we are minutes later. We're at 6 minutes 8 seconds instead of 2:30, and now they're back over at the health regeneration point, having healed up their brutes on that same health regeneration with Gaunts and Magmadons. But the thing is that armies are not made equal. What I mean by that is, if you have 5 units and I have 3, you are massively ahead of me. But if you have 12 units and I have 10, then you're not ahead of me by the same amount or the same degree. Again, keep in mind this concept, whoever splits first loses. We do see that the hemoglobin fusion is actually alive, and the Magmadon charge has gotten into all of these units over here, and the Magmadons are pushing back these units, and what really matters is who dies first. Yeah, and once the Magmadon, so the brutes are going to, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. So the Shroud Stone is going to hit this area, and this is really bad because these brutes are all low health. And why are the brutes low health? Because they didn't go to the health regeneration and posture to deny the third earlier. And the brutes dying is really bad because the brutes are twofold. The brutes are the front line, and the brutes are also the thing that keep the Gaunt safe. And if they become fiends, then they become anti-brutes, and that they basically are mind controlled, and it's terrible. Now this unit is going to go down, and the problem now for bot side player is that since all of those units have died, a snowball has started. And the thing about snowballs is that in real life, you push it off the top of the mountain and it goes spiraling down. It's not actually going to become like a giant tsunami, an avalanche, or some terrible thing. But this is more like the Scooby-Doo avalanche snowball, where if you just trip on a root, you're going to form a Katamagari level ball that's going to destroy everything. And so topside player is going to win this game because the third base was intentionally made faster, and the tech was made, so there were more brutes made on the bot side to regain control after the disastrous early game, and also they made a third base as part of a plan to then get their later tech, and that coalesced into the bot side player finally having access to 1 Magmadon. The top side player had access to half a dozen Gaunts, a Magmadon that was able to get there at the time that the opponent's Magmadon popped, and the ability to have the hemoglobin fusion, and they had taken over all of the camps on the map, even though I don't think they took them over in the best way possible. And so this third base was the point of leverage that mattered. This is really a necessary third base for the bot side players so they can get their tech, whereas the top side player, they have a third base, but they have their tech. Then the difference is important. And with the destruction of the... Do you see that? The Magmadon just ignores terrain? That is so good. That is so good. So you just ignore terrain when you do the slide? Do you know how good that is? Holy shit, that's so crazy good. That makes any ranged units you have goated. Alright, anyways, we'll discuss that later. Yeah. And TheoRy just says GG. And I've been waiting to use this joke, but you might call this the theory of a dead man, because he is in fact taking the loss. Again, he won the initial trade because of Veil. He lost when he saw there was a mirror, and then he took too much damage. And basically, for anyone who's new, who's watching, I do think that if you are sending one vault brute down over the side, I actually think you hit each other and continue on. It's very similar to the Raider interaction that we actually see in Little Wargame Rax v Rax. On to game 2. Broken Hinterlands. Now, I don't know if Broken Hinterlands and did they just gentlemen's that all maps would be Secluded Grove and Broken Hinterlands? This is gonna be a mess, and the reason this is gonna be a mess is there's one way that this doesn't become a mess, which is both players recognize that the central problem of this matchup is that it is dominated by surface area and by fiends. And they'd agree to take the Z pattern of bases. And let me go into what the Z pattern of bases is, or what I mean by that, right? Because you might be like, what is this Z pattern? I've never heard of this. And it's like, listen, okay, here's the Z pattern. Here's your main. Here's your natural. Okay, follow my, okay, you see this? You see my mouse? Ooh, you see my mouse? Okay, here's the Z pattern. Here, to your natural. Go through the forest to get the third, fourth base. I feel like Dora the Explorer. All right, okay. So to get to the safe anti-fiend economy, we have to navigate through 3 places. Can you tell me how to navigate through the places? First, we go down the safe double ramp. We go through the light forest, and then we go down the central causeway. Say it with me. Fucking hell. Say it with me. High ground, forest, causeway. Oh my gosh. And if you don't do that, you run into the problem that we saw poor Azure have against Theory, which is you end up with a base over here that you're like, I can take that, I can defend that, I can put enough units, everything will be okay. And then seemingly 25 to 30 fiends show up and everything is in fact not okay. We're going to see a 1 vault opening. I actually think that this would be a great map to have a more than 1 vault opening, because is that forest? You can take it down. Are they hard trees? I'm pretty sure they're hard trees, right? That you can take down with imps. I want to see what the tech level is of Flame On, right? Because, man, I feel like Flame On is just what you need for these Mass Fiend Nightmare Wonderlands. And that's kind of saying, I don't really care about your Gaunts, actually, we're okay. Also, any worker unit has the ability to ignore collision while it's trying to move to a place of safety. Yep, it's a proxy, which is why the game is so short. I'm going to assume that this is Theory, who's doing the proxying. Wait, is it? Again, there's not like a setup that says who's top and who's bot, so I'm just going to assume that it was, because of the wins, that it was PartinG in game 1 based on Reddit comments and based on what I remember watching the first time. The Brute is going to 1 Rax move out over here, and this is why, this exact second, this right here is why I say that this map is good for Vanguard, because how is this Brute supposed to move to cover all of the possible proxiness? Is it supposed to go through the center, which is the most natural path, natural to natural? Is it supposed to go up and over the side? Is it supposed to go to the right? And by all accounts, if you meet in the middle like this, oh, look. We see this in Little Wargame. It's just 2 raiders hitting each other. It's just 2 brutes having a brutishly good time. Yep, top player just realized that the attack animation was a little bit faster, or seems to have gotten a reset faster. So, he's just going to lose. By the way, in Little Wargame, we now understand that if someone is trying to, if you use a Raider, which is your scout unit, your first army unit in Rax versus Rax, if you meet in the middle and they're trying to fight you aggressively and trade both of your health down, they're either cheesing you or they're making a second unit, because you can't get that health back. So I actually think that at a high level, what we're going to see is people just say, like, ships in the night just pass each other. Yep. Oh, no. And remember, whoever splits first. Whoever splits first. Also, focus fire is more important than split damage here. Yep. Oh. Oh, that's... Okay, if that had died, that's just game over. It's already looking pretty bad, though, because there is no expansion for the top side player. There is for the bot side player. And remember what I said? I said it a couple of minutes ago while we were streaming. If you don't want to be in the scenario in which, and this better be like a second Iron Vault coming up for bot side player, or I'm pretty sure they're just host. You don't want to be in the scenario where you have chosen the more economic opening, and then your opponent's units in the Infernal Ditto arrive at your natural as it finishes, because that's even worse than having normal combat units arrive at your natural as your natural finishes. That's a normal rush. No, this is a special, like, yes. Ooh, it's actually like spicy. Ooh, it's like spicy Korean. No, it's not Korean. It's yes, it's like face-meltingly pad thai. Oh, God, my mouth's watering. That sounds so good, but, not if it's too hot, actually. And what I'm getting at with this is, if normal combat units were attacking your structure, sometimes you have workers to defend. If you don't have workers to defend, then sometimes you have, like, some mechanic that you can use for your workers to help defend. Like, they can transform into militia, or they have Bob Overcharge, or something like that. What's your ability to help defend in the Infernal's mirror? When your natural finishes, it generates Veil for your opponent's army. Yeah, that feels really bad, actually. Especially since, just think about it the way it works, if Veil is statically getting reapplied for all units, there is more effective health being gained by these units on the right than these units on the left, because they're getting the benefit of Veil regeneration 3 times, and they're getting the benefit of Veil regeneration 2 times. Also, the fact that units start at 50% Veil means that proxying Iron Vaults is very, 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 very good. All right, anyways, this has been my TEDx talk. Not a TED talk, because I didn't pay $20,000 for it, or have someone else do that. Meat farms. Yep. Meat farms for the helping of the defense. This is micro, thus not the most interesting thing to me. Just keep in mind whoever splits first loses. Also keep in mind, yes, I always wanted to give my opponents more Veil. Yeah, so now actually you just have to play Ring Around the Rosie, because the longer that, what's so cursed about this circumstance is that the aggressor is getting your defensive benefits. Right? So you actually can't defend. You just have to out-damage them. Oh, and there's 5 of them. Yeah. This is looking like a top victory, right? Full jokes on display. Also, all of these meat farms are immediate. And remember also that both players can split into fiends anytime that they want to. Right? And if anyone gets us around, it's just kind of over. And also, it doesn't look like static to... Like, we've seen how Fiends work against Vanguard armies. Fiends are very fast, and they're not very efficient, but there's a lot of them, so they cover the surface area. In these small numbers, where there's not a lot of the units, yeah, we just don't care, man. Like, we don't care about your fiends. Like, your fiends are basically friends for how little they're doing for you, and that's actually just a clean kill of the aggressor. So if you're the attacker, you're feeling a little bit sad about that, a little bit like you wish that wasn't the case. And actually, another kill without a soul shroud, without a split. Yeah, and so now actually looking kind of doable. Not going to make comments that Reddit would otherwise love. The lighting, I would love some help. The Shroud Stone does go down. And the Fiends are going to take out this other Shroud Stone as another Brute comes in. And now it's 2 Brutes with comparable health against slightly more Fiends with the benefit of the Fellhogs. So what you want to do is you want to get the Fellhogs into the fight. And this is a lot of economy, but this is a very committed rush. So there's really not much to talk about here. I mean, it's just an aggressive build against in a faction where being aggressive is rewarded because of the way that Veil generates. And the fact that the farms actually help you defend is helping, but it's not actually solving the issue. Yep. And now that the Fiends Yep, the rush has to continue because there's no expansion coming for the player on the top side. The Shroud Stone is finally finished, and there are now enough meat farms that actually you can't get through all of the meat farms, all of the fell hogs. There's just too much body blocking. And yeah, actually, oh my gosh, that means that Animus is collected regardless. And so Animus is getting used here to generate fiends. We're going to see the GG shortly, right? And TheoRy says GG. And if you don't believe me, I'll just move it over to the side for you so you can take a look. You see that? As a GG. He said GG. We said he would, and he did. All right. Pretty good hold over there from PartinG. The Shroud generation on the Shrine also allows you to build the meat farm, so you can feel pretty, like, well, not entirely, but yeah, close enough. Makes you feel good about being able to hold that off. It looks like the hold is actually in make sure you have a comparable number of brutes, and then you have fell hogs, and then the fell hogs will help confuse the AI and make targeting kind of a mess. And then you have to deal with having an inferior unit count despite having the rush. And this is probably the reason that fell hogs get generated from the meat farms in the first place, if I had to be honest. They didn't look like they needed it that much against the hedgehogs, but looks kind of necessary, all things considered. In this matchup, I don't really know how PartinG was going to defend against this. We now know that he was the bot side player. I don't know how he was going to defend against this without the fell hogs, right? Without the fact that they spawned with half veil, without the fact that they were providing body blocking and they could get some free damage, and they just seem to spawn periodically. So, like a complicated hold and the loss of a couple of Shroud Stones to be sure, but when all the Animus came in and the cast was brought down and all of those were turned into fiends, it's assumed that it's now 2 base versus 1 base. You've made no expansion plans. Your proxy is going to get discovered, and that's just the end of the game. For anyone who was missing a little bit on, but why is it the end of the game? Well, now you know. That's why it was the end of the game. That's why it was capital OVER over. All right. Well, with all of that said, we've been at it for 2.5 hours. I think we're going to call it there. I think getting 2 in is good enough. So we've gotten through the following matches. We've gotten through match 2 and match 3. If you're here on stream, use the commands bang Supercup or bang match 1, match 2, or match 3, and you can go back to ItanoCircus Cast 2 TV or ItanoCircus Cast 2, and you can see the original casting on the channel. I'm gonna go watch it actually, see if there's anything that I missed after this, although I have already watched them. Just saying. And I hope you found this interesting. We did go over a couple of interesting maps, and in true me fashion, for about 49 minutes of gameplay, we were streaming for, I would say without the break, about 2 hours and 33 minutes, right? With a little bit of a hiccups, some preambles, bunch of stutter stepping and pausing. And make no mistake, these will find their way to YouTube, where we will give appropriate credit and links for the original content, including the socials of ItanoCircus. Thank you so much. Have a good one, everyone. Hope you enjoy the Stormgate content. If you do, follow, like, subscribe. If you donate a lot of money, I'll say I don't know why you did that, but I will appreciate it. Bits also work, and no, I am not going to have TTS. Somebody asked me that as a joke. I'm not going to have that blaring in my ears if I can avoid it. Thank you so much. And it's genuinely, thank you for watching. Gonna have a good one. Take care out there.